most men are not guys that are like out there openly talking about their feelings, being vulnerable. That's the environment we're creating in Dad-esque. I give every guy like five, depending on how many people show up, 5-10 minutes of space to just tell their story. Beyond like, hey, I'm Matt, I'm an employment lawyer and I'm in South Carolina. I want to hear about like, how'd you meet your wife? Like, what was your experience having kids?
Yeah.
So we can get to know each other on a deeper level. A lot of the features and a lot of the things that we do in the community were things that members came up with or thought about or asked, can we do this? And I was like, sure, I can build that. So like recently we added a Lawyer Dad book club.
So what's next for Dad-esque? Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for an episode of Breaking Rank, the podcast where we lead without permission. I am your host, Diana Lauritson, and I'm here today with a very special guest. Matthew Korn is a partner at Fisher Phillips. He's passionate about helping clients solve their most difficult employment law problems. He focuses primarily on wage and hour litigation and is the co-chair of the firm's RIF task force. He's also the chair of the firm's evaluation committee and is the father of 4 children, ages 3 to 11. In 2025, he founded Dad Esquire, a free online community for lawyer dads to connect, share stories and strategies, and support each other. Very impressive. So thank you, Matt, for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me, Diana. I'm really excited to have a chat tonight.
Yes. So I actually found you on LinkedIn because you've really developed a presence on LinkedIn lately. And we are connected through some mutual friends on LinkedIn. And I heard your story and I thought I have got to have him on this podcast because you are the epitome of breaking rank for a lot of different reasons that we will get into. But first, I want to just start out and ask a couple questions about you. You hold quite a few leadership roles, as we've just established as your bio. How do you describe yourself outside of your titles?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like I wear so many hats, and at the end of the day, like I'm just a human trying to make a difference for people, whether that's through my community, for my clients, most importantly for my family, for my wife and kids. I think when I meet people, it depends on who I meet and how I describe myself, really. But at the base of it all is just I'm just somebody that's trying to live my life and have a good life with my family and make as much of an impact as I can.
Yeah. And when you hear partner in big law, people often assume a certain life structure. So what parts of that assumption have been true for you and what parts haven't?
So I think there are a lot of things about being a partner and attorney in big law that we all think of: long hours, stressful job, high stakes. What I love about my job is I get to work on high stakes cases that matter for my clients. And that I like digging in. I like getting into the intellectual part of it. So I think that's really what we think of as just people grinding away, billing hours. What I've found in big law and at my firm in particular, Fisher Phillips, is I've got a lot of really cool colleagues, like people that are normal human beings. So if you're not a lawyer, you look at lawyers and you're like, these are like robot people in suits that are walking around just spouting laws. Like I work with a lot of really cool, normal people, and have made a lot of friends at my firm, people that I now call not just law partners and colleagues, but friends. And there's more and more of those. Like, you mentioned LinkedIn. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit, but when I go on LinkedIn now, I don't just see lawyers, posting, here's where I spoke at this conference. Here's this award I got. I see lawyers saying, I have a life too. let me share a little bit about myself with you.
Yeah, definitely. And you are the father of four children, ages 3 to 11. So, how did becoming a parent change the way that you experience the practice of law?
Yeah. So it's interesting. There are guys in my community that went and had kids while they were in law school. I was not in that group, and I don't know how they survived 3 years of law school with kids. We had our first son 2014, so I had been out of law school about 4 years, and I've been at my firm for about three, and it changed a lot. I like to tell people I didn't realize how selfish I was until I got married and I had to split my time with another person. And then I also didn't realize how selfish I was until I started having kids. And now, you look when you have kids and you're like, I don't have a whole lot of time for myself, but it's so worth it. So it changed in terms of my law practice. I was at the time a health and safety litigator. So I was also building a practice at my firm. So I was traveling around the country to conferences, trying to get, the practice out there and get new clients in. When I got back from those conferences, because I wasn't billing time, I was at my desk billing, trying to hit my hours, trying to make partner. And I was an associate at the time. So I spent a lot of time working. And a lot of that was me just self-inflicting. Like, I just wanted to succeed. And so that transition period was tough. My wife decided to stay home when we had our first. And about a year in, she said, I feel like a single mom. And that really was like a wake-up call for me. I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, you're never home. And when you are home, you're in your office. Like, you're just working all the time. And, we've had a child now for almost a year. And I just feel like I'm on my own doing this. And so that really impacted me. I actually left my firm for a little bit and went in-house to a company because I wanted to have, in my view, I wanted to have better work-life balance. I wanted to have, set hours that I was working and then hours when I wasn't working. And that was great for about a year and a half. And then we had our second child in 2017. And the day I got back from parental leave, they informed me that I was part of an economic riff and I didn't have a job anymore. So I'd been off for about 2.5 weeks. I called my wife, an hour after I got to work, and I said, I'm coming home. She's like, why are you coming home? You just got back. So, well, I got back to not having a job. So she was super supportive. It gave me some extra months to kind of figure out, what do I want to do? And when I was fortunate, my firm took me back and said, you're ready to come back. And that was really the decision point for me, was, do I go back to private practice? Do I try to stay in-house? Which option, which path makes more sense? But when I came back, I said, I got to do it different. I got to do something different than I did before. And so I changed my whole practice. I said, I can't do this health and safety. It requires too much travel. It's not predictable travel. It's somebody gets injured and you're on a plane. And that doesn't work well when you've got kids at home, at least not for me and for my wife, leaving her with kids while I'm just flying around the country. So now I do wage and hour work and I do RIF work, which still requires some business travel. It's part of the gig as a lawyer, is you're going to travel once in a while. But at least when I travel now, it's usually more planned in advance. We have time to prepare, get extra support at home. And I've modified how I work so that, like, when I need to get some extra hours in, I'm either getting up early before the kids wake up or I'm staying up after they go to bed and doing my work, so that the amount of time I do have with them, I can actually spend with them.
Yeah. Do you feel like there are different expectations for fathers than there are for working mothers?
I don't know that there's well, maybe. I think it's more, there's different challenges. I created this community for dads in part because the challenges are different. And truthfully, I think working moms have it a lot tougher. We'll just put that out there right away. I think they have a lot tougher because where we are in our society, and I've written about this and talked about this, but where we are is women still carry too much of the domestic load. Even in families where a dad's super involved, women carry a lot of that, especially the mental load of running the
Mhm.
household. So I think it's tougher for women. I think the challenges are different in kind for men, where you know, I know of lawyers who are going to go out on parental leave, and their firm might have adopted a really generous leave policy that says you can take 12, 16 weeks, whatever it is. And guys will think to themselves, if I take more than a week or two, are people going to roll their eyes at me? It's almost expected a woman recovering from a pregnancy will take their full leave entitlement. And I don't think anyone blinks at that. But when a guy says, I want to take the full 16 weeks, you start hearing things like, why does he need to take more than a week or two? He's not having the baby. And so I think the challenges are different. That's kind of why I have the separate community. There are awesome communities for lawyer moms out there, including one called Mothers Esquire that I really love the work they do. But I think the challenges are a little bit different. And there's some really cool, like when you dig into that, there's some really cool ways. I was on a business development forum call with some of the other attorneys in my firm, and we were talking about, for me, having kids is a connection point for clients.
Mhm.
And I meet clients and we talk about our kids, and I love that. I feel like it just connects us on a more personal level. But for many working moms and lawyer moms at my firm, they're like, I don't want the client to perceive me as less committed if they think, oh, this person's got kids, they've got obligations. And so I think that it presents different challenges, different opportunities. Um, but I do think that there's a lot of room for improvement, particularly with leave, particularly with guys saying, "Hey, you know what? I got to leave at 5 today. My kid's got a soccer game," um, which I also think opens the door to normalize that for moms too, right? Like if dads are saying, "I got to leave at 5 to go to my kid's soccer game," when the mom says, "I've got to leave to go pick up my kid from school or go to a PTA meeting or go to the soccer game," it's more normalized because now it's not just the moms doing this; it's the dads saying, "I want to be involved too."
Yeah, it reminds me of, I was when I worked at a firm, this was probably about 10 years ago, and this was my first law firm that I worked at. And I remember one of the tax attorneys had a baby. Well, his wife had a baby.
Yeah,
and and he was back in the office the next day
yeah,
and worked every single day. And I remember, I want to say that I got emails from him on the day that his wife gave birth. I literally got emails from him. And I was like, why are you working? Aren't you in the hospital? Like, aren't you, what is going on right now? And he's like, oh yeah, and it was like he was trying to make it so that it was like, yeah, my wife had a baby, but it's not a big deal. I'm still going to get this stuff done. And I was just kind of like, no,
yeah.
like, this is the
It's
time.
not uncommon.
Yeah, you should be with your family right now. And he was in the office literally the next day and came in every day after that. And I remember another attorney that I worked with who his wife, he also had four children. This was, I think, his fourth child that was being born. And I think his wife kind of gave him an ultimatum and was like, look, if because also a tax lawyer, and he ended up leaving the law firm and going back to do tax work at an accounting firm. He was a CPA as well, and ended up leaving the law firm because after their fourth child, he had just confided that it was a lot, and he wasn't able to help out as much. And so when I saw you with Dad Esquire, I was like, this is exactly who this is built for. These lawyers are exactly who this like, they need a community like this, because literally their number one concern is showing people at the office that they're willing to work no matter
No matter
what.
what.
I
Yeah,
mean, and it's like this show of commitment or devotion or loyalty that's saying, like, I'm really committed because I'm literally working when when my wife just had a baby. And so I think the work that you do is so important. And I just want to kind of dig in a little bit to what was breaking moment or the pivotal moment where you decided, I'm going to start Dad Esquire, or there's a need for Dad Esquire?
Yeah, that's a good question. One other thought on what you were saying, it came to me as you were talking is, I think some of that pressure is internalized pressure for men. There's nobody saying you have to get back to work the day after your child's born. If there is, like, that person should leave that firm immediately. So there's some, like, I've put a lot of that pressure on myself. If you're, and that's I'm sure there's just so much you could get into on why men in
Mm-hmm.
particular put that pressure on themselves. But I think some of that's internalized, some of it is legitimate, and some of it's just we don't talk about it enough. And so if you're not seeing other people in your office who are taking the full leave or talking about leaving to go to kids' events and getting their work done at another time, if we don't normalize it and talk about it, nothing will change, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
that's a lot of what we do in the community. To your question about the why did I create this? There's a lot of inputs, as I think there probably are for anything anyone does. But I was like not this past summer, the summer beforehand, I was 39, looking down 40, thinking to myself, like, am I making a big enough impact? If I look back in 30 years, what did I build? What did I do? And I was meeting a lot of guys that were saying, hey, you've got 4 kids and you're a partner at a big law firm. Like, how do you do that? And I remember one specific conversation with a law student who had kids in law school, or a child in law school, and said, I want to have more kids. How do you do it? And I said, well, I just sleep less than everybody else. I just get my work done and then I sleep less. And during the conversation, I was like, that's not really a good answer for you. That's not a healthy answer. It's not the right answer. I need to find something. Let me go find some resources for you. So I started looking for where are there resources. And if you log into LinkedIn right now and you say, I want to look at working mom stuff, you'll get bombarded. If you want to try to find working dad stuff, it's a little bit harder to find. There's not as much out there. There's not as many people talking about it. The whole concept of a working dad is kind of a new thing, I think. I mean, it was always assumed that dad would work. So, like, this idea of this working dad concept is more a dad working concept, maybe. But there wasn't really anything out there, and I found absolutely nothing for lawyer dads. And I think that's part of the magic of what's happening in our community is I have a bunch of friends that are dads. I'm very fortunate. My wife and I lead a small group at our church for married couples with kids, and there's some really great dads in that community with me. We meet and have breakfast, but they're engineers and they're HVAC techs and they're whatever else, other professions. Not to say law is harder or easier than any of those things, but it's different, and they will never really understand. Why does Matt have to go to the office 50 hours to bill 35? They just fundamentally can't understand that because they've never.
Mm-hmm.
I do try to tell them, like, take your phone out and time how much time you actually work at work, and then we'll have another discussion about that. But
Yeah.
track it in 6-minute increments, and then we can talk. But there's just something fundamentally different about being a lawyer, and I think that is the cool thing about the community, is that it binds us, and there really wasn't anything. And I believe in community so much through that experience with our small group. Like, I'll never forget one of our first small groups. My wife and I were sitting there, and some other couple was describing an argument they had just had about his wife bought a purse or something, that they got into a fight about her making a big purchase without talking to him. And I literally nudged my wife and I'm like, we literally had that same argument yesterday, like the same argument. And it was a light bulb for me, is like, when you're in a marriage and you're having an argument with your spouse, sometimes you think, hey, maybe this is just us. Maybe we're the only ones struggling with this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a light bulb for me. I was like, oh no, we're normal. Like, that's what normal married couples do. And that's what I want to build in Dad-esque, is guys that are joining it that might be at a firm where they're seeing people not leaving the office till late, not showing back up at work the day after their kid's born. And they're like, am I weird? Like, am I weird to want to be home with my kid more often? No, you're not. There's a lot of us out there who want that. who don't want to sacrifice being a good lawyer, who want to advance in their careers, who want to do really good work for their clients, but they also have this pull to be really, really good, present, intentional dads with their kids. They know their time is short with their kids. So that's really all of that came together, December 2024. And then I worked with a guy one time. His motto was get it done. And so I just was like, a lot of people, I talk to a lot of people that build communities, and a lot of people plan and want to make it perfect. And I was like, no, I'm going to launch this thing January 1st, 2025. I just started talking about it on LinkedIn. I'm going to launch it. It's like 3 weeks after I had the idea. I was like, I'm going to launch. And it was not perfect. It still is not, but I launched it.
No, and I think it's so cool because we obviously, in legal in particular, you want everything to be perfect, and you can let perfection be the enemy of progress a lot of times. And for you to step out and to create this platform because there was a lack of resources in this area, I think is amazing. But is there a reason that you decided that it needed to be like a free, public, community-based platform? Was that one of the important kind of sticking points for you when you were developing this?
Yeah, I wanted it to be super accessible.
Hmm.
We have we have we're at almost 500 members. I think I'm at
Mm.
479 right now. So I'm getting, I know
Wow,
the
and
number just because we're
you're
close. We're close to a milestone, which is really cool. Um, but we have lawyers who are in private practice. We have solos. We have plaintiffs lawyers. We have in-house. We have government, nonprofit.
hmm
We have some former lawyers who they call themselves recovering lawyers for some reason,
Oh,
but we
yeah.
have we have recovering lawyers in our community, and we have law students, and then we have dads, adoptive, foster dads, more traditional dads. We have my favorite, expectant dads join our community because we have a birth announcement section, and we just had one on Saturday. Somebody posted a picture of their baby and their 2-year-old boy like holding the baby, and I was like, that's my favorite posts that pop up in the community. I'm like, this is awesome. We can celebrate this person for bringing a new life into the world. So we have like this wide range of people all over the country, 44 states, 15 countries actually. So all over the world. And I just think that most of them could pay a membership fee, right? Like for most lawyers, like paying a $50 a month membership is like, I'm going to have one less Starbucks a week this month. It's for me, it's not the can they pay, it's partly would they, and I want them in the community. Um, I want people who need that space, who need the resources to be able to have them be accessible to them. And it's for me, it's more mission based. It's just the mission is let's get guys together. I think also we didn't talk about it earlier, but I think men, this is a stereotype about men, but most men are not guys that are like out there openly talking about their feelings, being vulnerable.
hmm
That's the environment we're creating in Dad-esque. And I think it's important. And I think there's a lot of like 30 and 40-year-old guys that just don't have a lot of close male relationships.
hmm
And so I'm really dedicated to like, let's not just get people in the community, but once they're in the community, how do we get them connected? How do we get them engaged? How do we get them to open up? So we do a lot of that stuff in the community just to try to create that environment. So yes, it's free. It's free to join, intentionally so, because I want it accessible to everyone that fits the lawyer dad mold, but everybody that's a lawyer dad that wants to be part of it.
So how does it actually work? If you're a lawyer dad and you find out about Dad-esque, what does that look like? What does that journey look like there when once you join?
So one of the decisions I made early on, I don't the community is hosted on a platform called Mighty Networks, which I think I've had one of my 500 members know what Mighty Networks was before they joined. If you're in the community building space, you know what Mighty Networks is. But
Yeah,
I,
I'm familiar. Yeah.
I did it there because one, I didn't have a Facebook page, so I was like, I'd have to
hmm
build a Facebook page and then do a Facebook group. I like the functionality too, and I'm really glad I did it there because it feels like a self-contained space. It's private as far as online community can be.
Mhm.
Anyone that, everybody in it is joined into that community for the same reason. So it feels safer to share things in a community like that. Um, but as I was building it, when I get a new member, it's usually somebody I connect with through LinkedIn. When I first started it, I was just connecting with people that were lawyers and they were male, and I was like, "Hey, are you a dad? Do you want to join this thing?" Now I have over the last 3 or 4 months, I've gotten more. I have a Dadass company page, and that was where most of my content was. I've gotten more comfortable talking about my personal life on LinkedIn, which has been amazing. Like I've met so many cool people, yourself included, obviously, and on LinkedIn that I would never have met if I was just posting from the Dadass page. So now I've got guys who are joining, without even connecting with me or just seeing the stuff on LinkedIn, or in other areas, and when they join, so they have to sign up for a Mighty Networks account. I do a quick 5-question request form that just it gives me some information. I welcome each new member, so I have a welcome post that says their name, how many kids, ages, where they work, where they live, just to introduce them to the community, and then guys from the community jump in and welcome them. Um, so I get some of that information when they join. And then I always try to tell them download the app. The app, Mighty Networks has a free app, so they download the app. And then I have kind of a roadmap when they join. The challenge of building a Mighty Networks is I have to onboard for not just a new community space that they've never been in, but also a new platform they've never used. So
Mhm.
a little bit more teaching on getting them plugged in. But once they get plugged in, we just started this a couple weeks ago, but we have a Tuesday morning coffee hour. So it's just from 10 to 11 on Tuesday mornings, Eastern. I'll be on Zoom. And if you want to jump in for 5 minutes just to say hi, I just want connect points as live as we can get.
Mhm.
We do a lunch and learn once a month. The first Thursday of the month, we do a lunch and learn with speakers that I bring in, to talk about everything. I mean, we've done protecting kids online. We've done finances. We've done health and fitness. Just a variety. We had one on adoption. My daughter is adopted, and so adoption's super important to me. Brought in a guy, and then one of my favorite meetings we do is once a month on the third Thursday. We have something I call monthly bar gathering, and that is designed to feel more like that small group I was telling you about that my wife and I lead, where I give every guy like five, depending on how many people show up, 5-10 minutes of space to just tell their story beyond like, hey, I'm Matt, I'm an employment lawyer and I'm in South Carolina. I want to hear about like, how'd you meet your wife? Like, what was your experience having kids?
Yeah.
So we can get to know each other on a deeper level. And then between all that, we have a chat feature and guys post, everything from like pictures this weekend, pictures of their kids out in the snow. During the NFL season, it gets pretty rowdy. And so we've been trading NFL. I'm a huge Buffalo Bills fan. I'm from Rochester originally, and I've got too many. No, I won't say too many. We've got a lot of Chiefs fans in our community, so we have some fun. But it's stuff like that. There's a lot. There's so much going on in the community. I actually had to recently start like a weekly digest. Used to be we'd have like one event a week. Now sometimes we have 2 or 3 events in a week, and we've got other stuff going on in the community. And so it's I don't want anybody to feel overwhelmed when they come in. I don't, it's that's
Mhm.
when I meet people, the only time anyone's like, I don't know if this is for me, is I'm already super busy. I'm a lawyer. I'm a dad. I don't have time to join a new community and be part of this new thing. What I try to tell them is like, look, if you spend like 5 minutes a day or 5 minutes a week in here, and that 5 minutes you're thinking about how can I be a better, more intentional dad, or picking up one tip or something, that's a huge, awesome investment. To me, beats scrolling Instagram for an hour. Come in, say hi. It doesn't take a lot of time to get that connection going. So
Yeah. Was there anything that really surprised you after you launched? Anything that you learned that was just not what you expected?
none of it was expected. It's funny. I was talking to one of the guys that helped me like beta test it in December, and I said we really should have taken screenshots of what the community looked like when I first launched. And at the time, Mighty Networks didn't even have emoji reactions in the chat. So I would I'd post a chat and I'd have him, because I was like me posting into the void for a little bit, and he would come in and he'd go, yes, or like, that's right. Because he couldn't post like a little thumbs up. So it's changed a lot. I don't know if I expected it to get this big. I distinctly remember having the call. I had two guys at my firm that helped me just test Mighty Networks, and we had a technical glitch in just setting up the Zoom, and so I was like, well, we were sitting there, and I was telling them, and then afterwards, my wife, I was like, I don't know if this is gonna ever be more than like 5-10 guys sitting around talking about being better dads, but if that's all it ever is, then it's worth it. Like, it's worth doing this. I didn't expect it to be 500 guys. I truly didn't. And now
That's
it's,
amazing in a year, especially.
yeah, it's been really incredible. In every guy that joins, like when they say, like, I ask them, like, why are you joining Deadass? They're all like, because I care about my family, I care about my job, and I need help. I'm trying to figure out
Hmm.
how to balance that. One of the coolest things that recently happened, actually, we had um, probably 3-4 months ago, maybe 6 months ago, I had a member join in Singapore. And we met and we've talked through meetings and stuff. And um, about a month ago, I had a second member join in Singapore, and the two of those guys met on Dad-esque and then got together for like a coffee and chatted and met in real life. And I'm like, this is cool that something I built in Lexington, South Carolina, has traveled halfway around the world and is connecting people. So that's something I'm looking forward to, is more in person. We're kind of geographically spread out right now. But one of my advisory board members is in St. Louis, one of my favorite Chiefs fans out there, and he noticed we had 10 or 15 guys in St. Louis, so he's organizing a happy hour tomorrow night and a coffee hour in a couple weeks. And I'm like, that's cool. Like
Wow.
I envision like
You're
dad-esque
getting like
happy
local
hours all around the
speakers.
country. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd love to see like Dad-esque St. Louis, Dad-esque New York, Dad-esque LA. There are cities where we're getting that critical mass where we can do more in-person stuff, because I love that I can create an online community and connect people in Singapore. Like that's really cool. Um, but getting together in person is like a whole nother level. So that's more of that to come, hopefully.
Well, you recently just hosted a whole virtual summit. How did that go?
That was awesome. So I started planning that last summer, and I said, I really, we do these monthly meetings. They're awesome, but I'd really like to do a big event. And it was 2 days. It was 3 hours each day, because I knew it's hard. We weren't doing CLE. Next year, I'm hopeful we'll have CLE built into that, so it'll be even better. But this year, I was like, I can't add CLE. That's a whole nother layer of complexity. I need to just make a smooth summit. But I put out the call for speakers last July or August, and I'm like, I don't know if anybody's going to want to speak at this thing. Like, I'm going to have to be pounding down doors, like trying to find people to speak. And it was nuts. We had more speaker proposals than we had slots, and
Oh,
we had some really, really amazing speakers, people that are really well known in the legal community. We also had a panel of lawyer moms. One of my closest friends and law partners at my firm, Courtney Lays in Nashville, her and I talk about lawyer parent issues all the time. And
mhm.
before I launched at Esk, I was like, what do you think about this? She's like, I think it's awesome. You should do it. And um, but when we were talking about the summit, she's like, we need to do a lawyer moms panel. So we had a panel of 4 lawyer moms from my firm who were talking about
Cool.
just the challenges they face and how can lawyer dads support their partner at home? How can they support their law partners at work? Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, the summit was great. Looking forward to next year doing some CLE. It will probably be virtual again next year. Just geographically, I think we'll still be too spread out. But I'm hopeful January 2028 we'll have our first in-person summit, because that's the goal eventually will be to get to we're meeting in person. A lot of Dad-esque is member driven, and I started it, but a lot of the features and a lot of the things that we do in the community were things that members came up with or thought about or asked, can we do this? And I was like, sure, I can build that. So like recently we added a lawyer dad book club. A new member was like, why, we need a book club. Let's talk about books. And I was like, hey, if we can get 3 to 5 guys in the community that want to do that, I'm happy to build it. You lead the discussion. So now we have a book club, and we didn't have that a month and a half ago. And I'm sure in a month and a half we'll have another feature that I can't even think about right now, because it'll be from somebody in the community that's like, can we do this? And that's the cool part about building it. Um, is a lot of it is driven by the members and like what's working and what do they want out of this experience.
It's so cool because I see your LinkedIn posts and I see how your community is growing and building. And, you know, it's something that I have not experienced a lot. I've worked in big law for, 15 years, and it's something that I don't see a community like this with lawyer dads, which is just amazing. Did you ever get any pushback from anyone, just firm wise or just in general, for trying to start this type of an initiative?
No, I mean, I had plenty of fears posting on LinkedIn and creating something like this. The response has been awesome at my firm. Many of my law partners and associate lawyer dads at our firm are part of Desk. And our management committee has been super supportive. It's been great. I've had nothing but support from my firm, which has been awesome. It is different. It's not something that most lawyers are going to do, especially ones that have, all these things on their plate already. So I'm still a full-time practicing lawyer, and billing hours and doing all the things that lawyers do. A lot of that desk happens after the kids go to bed and early morning hours. So it's a lot, but I'm so passionate about it, like that you can't do something like this unless you're 150% in, because
Oh, yeah.
there's challenges along the way. There are days we had 7 new members on Saturday, and I was like, man, this is just crazy. 7 new people joining in the community in one day. Then it'll go like 3 or 4 days and nobody will join, and I'll start thinking, is this working? Is it still on? And so it's a roller coaster for sure, but yeah, I've had Fisher Phillips sponsored our summit, which was awesome. Our firm has, about 10 years ago, we started something called the Women's Initiative and Leadership Council, maybe
Mhm.
10 or 12 years ago now, and that group has done more at our firm for working parents. I won't even just say women, for working parents. Our parental leave policies are amazing now.
Mhm.
That have just improved the experience at our firm so much, and I'm grateful to the women at my firm for doing that. And that, I said there's a lot of inputs. I don't think Dad-esque would exist if I didn't see that happening at my firm, and know like my firm supports working parents, so like there won't be a problem with me going out and creating something. Truthfully, if there had been a lawyer dad community, I probably would have signed up and just invited people to join it with me, but it didn't exist. So I was like, I guess somebody has to build it, and I became that somebody.
No, that's amazing. Does your wife ever help out with any of the dad-esque stuff?
She does well. So one, she has been like the number one supporter since day one, which has been really cool, because it takes away time that her and I would probably be together, which is tough. And so she has been nothing but supportive since day one. She's actually she stays home with our kids, but she has a master's in broadcast journalism, and she's a really
Oh,
good
wow.
video editor. So
Okay.
I was doing last year Lawyer Dad of the Month interviews, and so I would do kind of a podcast setup and interview guys in the community, just let them tell their story. And she was doing all my editing. She made an intro and outro for me. Like she was doing all the editing for that. And then one of her biggest skill sets, because she's a journalist, lawyers write differently than average human beings do,
Yeah.
and so you
Yeah.
know learning to write for LinkedIn, like LinkedIn's a very different, you've got to catch people's attention immediately if you want, I don't care about how many impressions I have, other than I want eyeballs on Desk. I want people to know about my community. And so she is a master of like helping me. I'll write something and she'll be like, no, you can't. My favorite one was I have a blog on Substack for Desk, and I wrote a 2-part blog post for my daughter's adoption. And it's just a special story to me. And I spent a lot of time writing it. And then after I wrote it, she looked at it and I read it out to her, and she was telling me all the sentences I had to cut. She's like, this is just too, you don't need that. You don't need that. Just made it much crisper. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there are footnotes in that blog, which the fun thing about those footnotes is, one, like what blog other than a lawyer blog has footnotes? But those footnotes are actually sentences that I was like, no, I cannot bear to part with this. So those
Yes.
are things that my wife had on the chopping block that I was like, I will move it out of the main text so it's not distracting to you, but they're staying in the blog posts. But yeah, so she has done quite a bit helping with building Desk.
I love that. So what's next for Dad-esque?
So what I'm really excited about right now is I a couple weeks ago launched a new thing called the Trusted Provider Network. And so the concept is I did the summit. I had people who signed up or who sponsored the summit, different people that are legal service providers, AI tech companies, legal AI tech. I learned recently that there's a whole industry of these people called legal nurse consultants. I didn't know that exists. I do employment law, so I don't work, I don't do personal injury, but there's thousands of these legal nurse consultants on LinkedIn. But one of them was like, I love what you're doing with Desk, and she sponsored my summit. So after the summit, I was like, how can I provide those people an opportunity to be more part of the community as we go? And the concept is like a sponsorship model for the community, that they will have some access to the members of the community. They can do educational content. So they're helping me build out the resource that I want for my members. They're going to post educational things. They're going to host lunch and learns. And it's all stuff that the guys in my community are going to benefit from. And I go through a vetting process. I have a intentionally long application. I interview them, make sure they really align with the values of what our community is about before they join. But on the member side, I want this to be beneficial to our members. Like, we've got a financial planner that joined the Trusted Provider Network. If you're a lawyer dad and you go out and say, I need a financial planner, again, you're going to get thousands of people. Your DMs are full of financial planners. This guy that we picked, he's a dad himself. He's married to a lawyer. He really understands what lawyer dad, and he works with a lot of lawyer dads. So, when you're financial planning, if you're making 60 grand a year versus you're making 500-600 grand a year, those are different financial plans. And,
Oh yeah.
and so, having somebody that really understands the people in my community is really important to me. So that's what I'm building right now as we speak, is just this network of providers that are helpful to the community members, that also help sustain Desk, because we talked about, I'm really committed to having this free community for lawyer dads, but it takes a good amount of my time to build it. So the idea is this will help sustain the community, and it's a win-win for everybody. These providers are meeting potential clients. My members are getting access to people that are vetted, that know what they're doing, and getting discounts from some of these vendors because they're part of the community. So the goal is that will become part of the ecosystem. We're always going to have the core of referrals, people referring each other work, and these meetings where we really dive deep on issues. But Desk is just growing. It's growing in a lot of ways. Number of members is growing in terms of what it offers to the members.
Will you have mental health and mental wellness resources as well available?
That's the goal. I've already got a professional development coach signed up. But the goal is to have just a wide variety of different things that the guys in my community might need. So I've got a credit card points advisor who wants to be part of the Trusted Provider Network, right? Like that. But like, guys, I know that I'm not optimized on my credit card. So I'm like, I told this guy's like, I'm going to be your first client out of this because I need your help. I don't have time to go do the research. It's not that I'm not smart enough. I just don't have time to go do the research. So I
Yeah.
picked a credit
Yeah.
card and it looked good, and that's the one I stuck with. And so yes, but yeah, mental health is a big one.
Mhm.
We talk a lot. I do a dad vice quick hit every day, just like a 3 to 5 minute, just a resource. Because again, I think these guys need resources. So on Mondays we do mindset and stress, and I talk a lot about stress, mental health. Just it's so important because we carry that stress home from work to home, and it affects how we engage with our kids. So we talk about that a lot. I'm positive we're going to have health and fitness coaches, mindfulness people, people that help with mental health. So yeah, I think this will be a really cool addition to the community this year. And my plan is every week on the DadS page, I'm announcing a new provider every Wednesday. But the plan is to roll out new providers once a week throughout the year so that
Wow.
really build this out.
Look how far you've come in just a year.
It's crazy.
This is, do you ever just sit back and think, wow, I cannot believe I built this? This is crazy.
Yeah, I have. You see, I'm wearing the Dad shirt.
Yep.
I did a merch shop, and that was. I actually hired a business coach to help me think through stuff last year. I'm a lawyer. I'm not a business person, right? So I'm learning all these things about business and creating something online. And he was like, merch shop's a waste of time, and he was 100% right. I think I've sold 2 T-shirts, which is cool. But now like everybody that came to the summit got a T-shirt. So now it's just like seeing the T-shirt pop up on LinkedIn on somebody. I'm like, that's so cool.
Oh, yeah.
Just things that like, yeah, like a year ago, this shirt didn't exist. Right. And now it's a real thing. So yeah, I do often sit back and like think, man, this is cool. Um, but I mean, it's that perfectionist mentality that lawyers have that you're talking about. I'm like, I could get more guys to dive a little deeper tomorrow. Let me figure out a better way to do that. Or what is DadS going to look like in a year, in 2 years, in 3 years, in 5 years? What does that look like for the community? So I think about that stuff all the time.
Oh, yeah. How do you hope that the next generation of male leaders experiences fatherhood differently?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because I've had conversations recently with guys. We talked about the paternity leave thing, and when guys call me and ask me that question, like, "Hey, what do you think about how much paternity leave I should take?" And that's a deeply personal thing. Some guys need to get back to work. Some guys are like, "I'm 2 weeks home. I need to get back," and I get that. I understand it. I'm not judging anyone. Um, but when you have those conversations, and it's something my friend Courtney taught me, like if you take the lead, if you say, I'm going to take that, then the next person behind you doesn't have to ask the question. They know that's okay. If they see somebody doing it, they know that, hey, this is they're still a partner. They're still doing really well. And they've carved out some time for their family too, because that's important to them. And now I know I have permission in a way to do that too. So I think we can call it normalizing whatever, but I think the next generation, I don't see, I do think there's a generational shift happening or happened
Hmm.
where a generation ago, my dad was a great dad. He was a salesman. He was home for dinner every night. He made his own schedule. Um, but I do think there's something different about dads of the last 10, 15 years who want to be like a lot of the guys in my community will say, my family comes absolutely first before anything. I'm still
Hmm.
going to do a great job at work, but my family is number one importance. And I don't think 20 years ago you would have heard as many guys saying that out loud. I think the next 20 years we're going to see even more of that. It's almost like guys are catching up to women in a certain respect. Like women were saying, "I'm going to be," which is not surprising at all to me, by the way. But it's like it's guys saying, "I want to experience this too. I don't want to miss this whole childhood. I've only got 18 years." And so many of my guys in my community are like, "I've got 18 years with my kids before they're off at college. I need to spend as much of that as I can with them." So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful to see the next generation just come into the workplace and say, this is just normal. Like we don't have to have like this. The whole concept of like why are we even having the discussion will be gone. I hope. Like why are they were worried about taking parental leave? Like why would they have even? It'll be like a crazy notion to them that there was even a discussion about it.
No, it's just amazing, I think, what you've built. And everything that you've created. And I see you on LinkedIn. You're becoming a very prolific thought leader on LinkedIn, which is a community in and of itself. I mean, the LinkedIn community is responsible for a lot of leads. It's the way that I met you. And I look forward to your posts because I think it's such a great mission. And me having worked in legal for so long, it's refreshing to see that there are lawyer dads. I see so many examples of the dads that are like, oh, I'm going on vacation, but don't worry, like here's my cell phone and you can reach me whenever. And I know me working in legal, my vacations are like that a lot of times where I'm telling the lawyers like, no worries, you can just get a hold of me whenever, I'll, be on my cruise ship on the phone with you, is trying to get this work done because, as you mentioned earlier, when you're in a legal setting, people, it's not like we're curing cancer, but it feels like it is. And there's this pressure, this sense of urgency that really feels like the world is going to end if this does not get done. And so, I'm part of the Legal Marketing Association and other legal business development groups. You are creating a group for lawyer dads where resources did not exist before. And you're giving them permission to basically say, this might have been how it's always been done before, but there are other people out here who care about their families, who want to be present with their families and not have their whole lives be defined by their job. And you're giving voice to those people. So I think that is just absolutely amazing. And you should be very proud of yourself.
Thank you. It's funny you say it. LinkedIn is a community, and it took me a long time to realize it was not a job board. It's a community, and it's an awesome tool and an awesome connection point, especially if you kind of learn how to. Writing for LinkedIn is different, and if you want people to
Yes.
see it, you kind of got to write it a certain way. But I want people to hear this stuff, so like I'm committed to learning that better and learning how to do
Yeah.
that better. But it's so funny because I have the company page on LinkedIn, and so many guys that join my community eventually, they think they're part of Desk already. I get people that just send me a DM and they're like, "Thank you for having me in your community," and I was like, "Cool, you're actually not in the community yet, but I would love for you to join it." Like, thank you for following the company page. I would actually like if you think what I do on LinkedIn is cool, wait till you see what actually happens in the community.
Oh, yeah.
And so I have a lot of those discuss. I've posted about it a couple times. I'm like, this is not actually the community, although I love how, again, like seeing the support for it. And I try to pass that forward. I've met so many other people building really cool communities. There's a guy on LinkedIn that is building a community for dads of kids with special needs. And I'm like, that's awesome. Had him come and present in my community. And I'm like, because there's a lot of dads in my community that have kids with special needs. And so I love like supporting other groups. Mothers Esquire is another example of, I said it before, but they've been around since 2013. They have 10,000 members on Facebook, and they have a real in-person conference every year in Louisville. And it's something for me to aspire to. But I'm like, every person I meet on LinkedIn, I meet a lot of lawyer moms that are like, "This is really cool you're building." And I'm like, "Hey, have you heard of Mothers Esquire? You should really check that out too." So I'm all about like supporting all of the, if there can't be enough people talking about working parent issues. In my opinion, there can't be enough of it. Like we could have more and more voices saying this stuff's important, because it all goes back to then it starts normalizing, and again, not sacrificing anything, like still perform at a high level, still get those emails responded to. But if you go home and you take 2 hours to have dinner with your kids and put them to bed, and then you log back in, that's fine. Like that's for almost every lawyer in the world, that's not going to kill anything for that 2 hours. So
Yeah, no, and I love the leadership that you're exhibiting on this and the whole kind of bringing everyone together and supporting other networks, which is really important. So just to close out, is there anything that I haven't asked you that you want to share about Dad-esque or about your path from big law to, well, you're still in big law, but from big law to
Big
creating
Law
this
Plus.
amazing community. Yes, big law plus. That's a good way to put it. Is there
Yeah,
anything
no, I
else?
don't. I don't think so. I mean, we. I just want people to hear about it. I really do, because I think it can be a real. I think it's going to get better and better. I have this.
Mhm.
Just we've had some cool stuff. We've had a guy that said my wife just had a miscarriage, and two or three guys jumped in and said, "Man, I've been through that. Let's talk about it." I want to see more of that, and I know that as we grow, we'll have more and more of that stuff. Um, and so the only thing I don't think I've said is the link to join is dadesq.mn for mightynetworks.co. So if people are listening and they've made it through almost an hour of my rambling, then that's how you get to join the community, and it's free to join, and we welcome any lawyer dads and expectant or law school dads that want to join.
Well, thank you so much for being a guest on our podcast today.
Thanks for having me.
It was so great to actually see you, not really in
Yeah,
person, but through the LinkedIn. I feel like I already know you, but it's great to actually get to talk with you and to be able to share the message about Ask and the amazing community that you're building. So thank you so much.
thank you, Diana. It's really great chatting with you.